Chosen one, stop right there, because heaven has been watching you shrink yourself for people who were never worthy of your silence. And God is done waiting for you to apologize for the very gifts He spent eternity placing inside of you. Chosen one, there is something happening inside of you right now that most people around you will never be able to see. There's a fire that refuses to go out. There's a voice that keeps rising no matter how many times you try to push it down. There's a knowing deep in the center of your chest that you were not placed on this earth to be small. And yet, for years, maybe for as long as you can remember, you have been making yourself smaller. You have been folding yourself in half so that other people could feel comfortable standing next to you. You have been turning down the volume on your own voice so that the room would not feel too loud. You have been swallowing your truth, hiding your gifts, and apologizing for the very things that God spent eternity carefully weaving into the fabric of who you are. And heaven is saying to you today, enough. That word, that single word, is landing in your spirit right now, like a stone dropped into still water. Enough. Not as a rebuke, not as a punishment, but as a declaration, as a release, as the sound of chains hitting the ground. Because the God who created you, the God who breathed life into your lungs and called you by name before the foundations of this world were ever laid, that God never once looked at what He made and thought it needed to be hidden. Think about that for a moment. Before your mother held you, before your father saw your face, before any human being in this world had an opinion about who you were or who you were supposed to become, God already knew you. He already saw everything you would carry, every gift, every wound, every question, every night you would spend wondering if you were too much or not enough. And after seeing all of it, after knowing every single detail of what your life would look like, He still chose to make you exactly the way He made you. He did not make a mistake. He did not accidentally give you a personality that was too strong, a voice that was too loud, a mind that moved too fast, a heart that felt too deeply. That was intentional. Every single part of you that you have been taught to apologize for was placed inside of you on purpose by a God who does not make errors and does not take things back. But somewhere along the way, chosen one, the world got to you. Maybe it started when you were young. Maybe there was a room full of people who did not understand the way your mind worked, and they called it a problem. Maybe there was someone who was supposed to love you unconditionally who made you feel like your emotions were too heavy, like your dreams were too big, like your presence took up too much space. And because you were young, because you were still learning who you were, you believed them. You took their discomfort with your greatness, and you turned it into a personal flaw. You looked at the thing they could not understand, and you decided it must be something wrong with you. And you began to shrink, slowly, quietly, in ways that nobody even noticed at first, not even you. You started saying sorry when you had done nothing wrong. You started softening your opinions so the room would stay comfortable. You started pulling back your dreams so other people would not feel threatened by the size of them. You started laughing off the things that hurt you because you did not want to seem too sensitive. You started choosing silence over truth because you had learned somewhere deep in your bones that being fully yourself was a dangerous thing to be. And chosen one, heaven has been watching every single moment of that. God has seen every time you bit your tongue when the truth was right there, ready to be spoken. He has seen every time you dimmed your light because someone else was uncomfortable standing in the glow of it. He has seen every apology you offered for gifts they could not receive. He has seen you hand people treasure and watch them treat it like a burden. And here is what God wants you to understand today. He was not silent because He approved. He was not silent because He thought you deserved it. He was silent because He was working, because there are some things that only silence can build in a person. And what He has been building in you, through every moment of rejection, through every season of being misunderstood, through every night you went to bed wondering if there's something fundamentally wrong with who you were, what He has been building is something so strong, so unshakable, so deeply rooted in divine identity, that when it finally stands, nothing in this world will be able to knock it down. Because here is the truth, chosen one. The people who made you feel too much were not wrong about what they saw. They were just wrong about what it meant. They saw the fire in you, and they called it dangerous. They were right that it was powerful. They just did not have the wisdom to understand that powerful things are not supposed to be extinguished. They're supposed to be directed. They saw the depth of your emotions, and they called it weakness. They were right that you feel everything. They just did not understand that the capacity to feel deeply is not a liability. It is a gift. It is what makes you able to carry people who have no one else to carry them. It is what makes you able to speak truth into rooms that have been filled with comfortable lies for far too long. It is what makes you able to look at a broken person and see them not as they are, but as what God designed them to become. That is not weakness. That is spiritual sight. And you have been apologizing for it your entire life. God is saying to you today, stop. Stop apologizing for your discernment. Stop apologizing for the way you can walk into a room and immediately sense what is really happening beneath the surface. Stop apologizing for the fact that your spirit knows things before your mind is caught up. That is not confusion. That is the Spirit of God living inside of you and doing what He was sent to do. Stop apologizing for your standards. People called you too picky, too difficult, too hard to please. But God gave you those standards because He knew what assignment He was sending you into. He knew the caliber of the calling He placed on your life. And He knew that if you settled for less, you would never be positioned to carry what He prepared for you. Stop apologizing for your boundaries. People called you cold, distant, selfish. But God designed boundaries as an act of wisdom, not an act of rejection. Every time you protected your peace, you were protecting the assignment. Every time you said no to what was draining you, you were saying yes to what God was building in you. Stop apologizing for the ways you have grown. There are people in your life who got comfortable with the version of you that existed before God started moving. They like you small. They like you uncertain. They like you in a place where you needed them in ways that made them feel necessary. And when you started changing, when you started walking in the identity God was revealing to you, they called it arrogance. They called it pride. They said you had changed like that was a bad thing. But chosen one, you were supposed to change. You were supposed to grow. The caterpillar does not apologize for becoming the butterfly. The seed does not apologize for becoming the tree. Growth is not betrayal. Growth is obedience. And the people who are offended by your obedience to God were never sent to go where God is taking you. Think about the life of David, the shepherd boy who became a king. Before anyone in the world recognized his calling, before the anointing oil had been poured over his head, before the giant had fallen and the crowds had sung his name, David was alone in the fields, just a boy with a sling, singing songs to a God that most people around him had reduced to a set of rules and rituals. And his brothers looked at him, and they saw nothing. When Samuel came to the house of Jesse and began looking for the one God had chosen, David was not even invited to the table. He was in the fields, invisible, forgotten, considered too young and too small to be worth considering. But God said to Samuel, "Do not look at his appearance or his height, because God does not see the way human beings see. People look at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart." And David's heart, that passionate, worshiping, deeply feeling heart that his brothers probably found embarrassing, that was exactly what God was looking for. Chosen one, there are people in your life right now who cannot see what God sees when He looks at you. There are people who have looked at your heart and found it inconvenient, too loud, too honest, too unwilling to pretend. And because they could not fit you into the box they had prepared, they decided something must be wrong with you. But God looked at the same heart and He said, "That is the one. That is the one I chose. That is the one I have been preparing. That is the one the enemy has been working so hard to silence, because he knows that when that voice is fully released, it will undo everything he has been building." Because here is something you need to understand about why your silence has been targeted. The enemy does not waste his time attacking what does not matter. He does not invest energy into silencing voices that have nothing important to say. The very fact that he has worked so consistently and so strategically to make you small, to fill you with doubt, to surround you with people who could not see your value, to replay every mistake and every rejection on a loop in the back of your mind. The very fact that he has worked that hard is evidence of what he knows about you. He knows what happens when you stand fully in who God made you to be. He knows what doors open. He knows what lives change. He knows what darkness gets pushed back, and he has been terrified of it. Every moment of self-doubt he whispered into your ear was an act of fear on his part. Every voice that told you to shrink was being used by something that was afraid of you standing tall. And God is saying to you today, it is time to understand what that means. It means you're not what they said you were. It means you're not the problem they made you feel like you were. It means the very things they try to make you ashamed of are the things that carry the most weight in the kingdom of God. Your sensitivity is not a liability. Your boldness is not arrogance. Your depth is not too much. Your calling is not smaller than you thought it was. It is bigger. It is louder. It is more urgent. And heaven has been waiting for you to stop agreeing with the voices that told you to be quiet. There is a passage in the book of Jeremiah, the 1st chapter, the 5th verse, where God speaks directly to the prophet and says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations." And Jeremiah's response was immediate. He said, "I do not know how to speak. I am too young." And God's response was just as immediate. He said, "Do not say you are too young. You must go to everyone I send you to and say whatever I command you. Do not be afraid of them, for I am with you and will rescue you." Chosen one, how many times have you stood in that exact place? How many times has God placed something on your heart, a word to speak, a door to walk through, a truth to declare, and your immediate response was, "I cannot. I am not ready. I'm not qualified. I am too broken. I have made too many mistakes. I do not have what it takes." And the voice of heaven over every single one of those moments has been the same thing it said to Jeremiah. Do not say that. Do not speak that limitation over the life I designed. Do not reduce what I built with my own hands to the size of your fear. Because here's what fear does that is so insidious. Fear does not come to you and announce itself as fear. It comes dressed up as wisdom. It comes dressed up as humility. It whispers things like, "I'm just being realistic." It whispers things like, "I do not want to seem arrogant." It whispers things like, "Who am I to think I could do something like that?" And it sounds so reasonable. It sounds so measured. It sounds like the voice of someone who has learned from their mistakes and is being careful. But chosen one, there is a difference between wisdom and self-erasure. There is a difference between humility and self-destruction. Real humility does not make you smaller than God made you. Real humility makes you available to be used exactly as God designed you to be used. And what the enemy has sold you as humility has actually been a slow dismantling of the very identity God spent eternity building. So today, chosen one, God is asking you to do something that might feel uncomfortable at first. He's asking you to agree with him about who you are, not with arrogance, not with pride, not with a posture that elevates yourself above others, but with a quiet, unshakable, deeply rooted agreement that says, "God, I believe you knew what you were doing when you made me. I believe you did not make a mistake. I believe the gifts you placed inside of me are real and they are needed and they are meant to be released. I believe the calling you put on my life is not too big for me because you would never place a calling on a life without also placing inside of that life everything needed to fulfill it. I believe that the silence I have been living in has not served your kingdom, and I am ready to stop apologizing for who you made me." That declaration, chosen one, is not the end of a journey. It is the beginning of one. Because the moment you stop apologizing for who God made you, everything begins to shift. The relationships that were built on the smaller version of you will either transform or fall away, and both of those outcomes are mercy. The opportunities that could not find you while you were hiding will begin to locate you as you step into the open. The clarity that felt so far away will begin to arrive because your spirit can finally hear from God without the constant static of shame and self-doubt drowning out his voice. And there will be moments, chosen one, when the old patterns try to pull you back. There will be a moment when someone looks at you with that familiar expression, the one that says you are too much, and something in you will want to shrink again. There will be a moment when you say something true and the room goes quiet, and every old wound will start whispering that you should apologize. There will be a moment when the size of what God is calling you in feels overwhelming, and the voice of inadequacy will return like it never left. And in that moment, you come back to this. You come back to the truth that was spoken over you before time began. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. I set you apart. I appointed you. Do not say you cannot. Do not be afraid. I am with you. God is with you, chosen one. He has always been with you. He was with you in the moments when you felt most alone. He was with you when you sat in silence and cried tears that nobody else saw. He was with you when you made the mistakes that still feel too heavy to carry. He was with you when you doubted him and when you could not find him and when you wondered if any of this was real. He was there. He never left. And he has brought you to this moment, to this exact point in your journey. Not to condemn you for the years you spent making yourself small, but to call you forward into the fullness of everything he designed you to be. Heaven is not tired of you. Heaven is tired of watching you treat yourself as less than what God declared you to be. There's a difference. God is not frustrated with you. He is frustrated on your behalf. He is standing over every moment when someone made you feel worthless, and he is saying, "That was a lie." He is standing over every season of rejection, and he is saying, "That was preparation." He is standing over every version of yourself that you try to hide, and he is saying, "I made that. And I do not make things that need to be hidden." You are not the sum of what other people could not understand about you. You're the sum of what God deliberately chose to place inside of you. And that sum, chosen one, is extraordinary. It always was. It always will be. And it is time, right now, in this moment, for you to finally believe it. Chosen one, you have carried the weight of other people's inability to understand you for long enough. You have apologized for your gifts, your depth, your voice, and your calling for the last time. What God placed inside of you was never meant to stay silent. It was never meant to be buried under layers of shame and self-doubt. It was meant to breathe. It was meant to move. It was meant to reach the people who are waiting for exactly what only you can carry to them. Heaven has been patient, but the season of silence is over, and the world is about to hear what God has been building in you all along. Stand up, chosen one. It is time. If this message reached the part of your spirit that has been waiting for permission to be fully who God made you, take a breath right now and type the words, "I am done shrinking," in the comments below. Not as a ritual, as a declaration, as a stake in the ground, as a signal to heaven that you received what was sent to you today. And if someone came to mind while you were listening, someone who has been making themselves small for far too long, share this with them. One message at the right moment can change the entire direction of a life. Subscribe and turn on notifications so that every time heaven has a word for you, it finds you first. God is not done speaking, and you're not done becoming.